Welcome to Tuesday Night with Ben, and we have a very special treat because
it's Tuesday Night with Ben and Mike.
And Mike, friend, that's right. And we're at Electro Voice World Headquarters, and we're about to explore the Anechoic chamber. And I thought we'd start out here to see if there's any sound difference between the reflection of all the sound out here and what it sounds like in the Anechoic chamber.
Well, you mentioned the word reflection, and I think that's a really good place to just kick off what we're talking about. Anechoic is a kind of a crazy, big sounding word.
Makes you sound smart.
It really does, yeah. So we can
just really means anti-echo.
That's right, yeah. Right. And meaning non-echoic, meaning echo. It's no echo. That's what it is. So there's no reflections like you just mentioned.
Yeah, and use it next time you try to pick up a girl. I'm feeling rather anechoic.
And since we're at the Electro Voice World Headquarters, I have a new T-shirt of the week just for this. Check this one out, Mike. What do you think?
I like it. Very nice.
Very true. I void warranties. I love to blow things up just to see why they blow up. So, and these guys they just love it when I do. It's really hard to blow their stuff up, though. I'll tell you that. You guys are taking all the fun out of it.
You make it have to work for it.
They do, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go in the chamber.
All right.
All right, so now you've had the quickie tour of the inside of this chamber, and we're floating above more space and things, and this is where Mike and Ben will explain exactly what we're in.
So you're in the Electro Voice Anechoic chamber. It's 50 hertz anechoic chamber, which is directly related to the size of the room. It's a massive room. You don't really realize it from looking at it, but each one of those wedges is 4 feet deep.
Wow.
And what's cool about this one is it's a full space anechoic chamber. And the way we accomplish that is that we have this really awesome trampoline steel floor that we'll bounce around on.
Yeah, if you saw the shot of that, it's like a woven mesh. Which leads me to a question. It's not often I get to ask a question of the host, but my question is, Jason, how are you going to get your car keys back?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're down there, and
we have to live here.
We have a magnet on a stick, or we have.
Oh, okay.
Don't you have interns to go get that stuff?
It is.
Hey, intern.
It is an intern job to vacuum the floor of the anechoic chamber once a year. So that's funny.
Yeah, and that time's coming soon. It looks like.
Yes, it is. So yeah,
So how do you use this thing? Why this thing? It probably looks like it was expensive to build. It's a giant room. All these giant wedges. Probably a lot of math went into like how they were placed and what they were put into position.
Very expensive room. What was to build this again now? Now how old is this? This chamber is about 30 years old.
It's pretty old. It was originally actually in our Buchanan, Michigan headquarters, and it was moved in, I think, 1999 or something, or 2000.
And to build it now would be, what, $2 million, a couple $1 million?
Your guess is as good as mine. It's going to be at least $1 million.
We'll just go with, we'll just go with that number.
Let's say $5 million. Okay.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, I guess the first thing you want to know is, why do you need a room like this, right?
Well, what's the point?
The point of a room like this is to be able to measure something essentially outside of a room. Anytime you put a speaker into a room, it's going to change the way that speaker sounds. It's going to change the response of that speaker.
Why is that?
It's going to have reflections, and it's going to load the speaker differently. It's going to change the radiating boundaries of where that speaker is. So you put it in a room like this, it has no boundaries. It has no reflection areas. It's got nothing to diffract off of, to reflect off of. So this room is essentially gives us the ability to measure a speaker in a non-room.
Is that because nothing reflects in here? All sound is completely absorbed once it hits the wall?
That's the goal, at least, yeah.
And where the value for that is, three of us represent three different parts of the food chain. You as an entertainer, you as an engineer at a manufacturer. You're entertaining.
I'm the rabbit that usually gets eaten at the end.
Yeah, it's you as an entertainer, you as an engineer to manufacturer, and me as a distributor. We represent those different parts of the food chain, but the reason this room is so important to the process is that it allows you to measure the loudspeaker itself. Take this loudspeaker and measure it in a room, and you put it in a different room, it's now has different characteristics and it's a different
right.
loudspeaker. So particularly for things like install, where we use programs like Ease to model what a loudspeaker is going to do in a space and have predictable results before we go up 120 feet and hang it in an arena, we know what's going to happen, and that's because they use a chamber like this and their rotator, which maybe we can talk Mike into showing us.
Sure.
To take very accurate measurements in all three dimensions of that loudspeaker at different frequencies and understand, you know, what the consequence of that is,
Right.
what it does.
Very cool stuff. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
All right, we're about to get really confusing now. But so what is this thing for? It's not a torture device.
This is
It
our.
can be.
Well, it could be, I guess.
Oh,
yeah.
well, for someone creative and scientific like Ben, I suppose.
When the
Which
interns
makes me
don't,
kind of nervous.
When the interns miss a spot vacuuming the floor, you know,
That's right.
This is the rack.
attach them up. Yeah.
So this is our polar robot, essentially. What we do is we'll mount a loudspeaker up between these points, and we'll be able to rotate it to any spherical coordinate that we want, to any position that we want.
What's a spherical coordinate?
You know, like an angle in a sphere. So if you're looking at like a globe, you can move
Clear
it
as
to
mud,
like,
right, Jason?
Right.
It's an angle in a sphere.
If you're looking at like a
you?
globe, you can move it to like any position, like a meridian in a latitude and longitude line. You know. So.
Okay, like geometry.
Yes.
So basically you're pointing it in a certain direction in here.
Well, you know, when we do this, we're going to point it in every direction. The reason we're going to do that is we want to have an understanding of how the sound is propagating, coming out of these speakers.
How it's shooting out of the
Shooting
speakers.
out of the speakers.
And then terminating.
Well, you know, what coverage pattern we're talking. You know, you hear this a lot. You hear, you know, this horn has a 60 by 40 pattern. Well, this is how we know. We actually measure the on-axis response and then every other angle off-axis, and we compare those measurements to the on-axis, and what we get is a polar balloon. And that polar balloon is going to tell us, it's going to give us a really cool image of how that sound is shooting out of the speaker, how it's coming out of the speaker, where it's going. And that's really important because, you know, if you aim a speaker at your crowd, at your audience, you want it to go at your audience. You don't
Right.
want it to shoot down off the floors
off,
and
creating
you know,
other reflection
that's
and
right.
stuff like
That's
that.
right. So
Point the loud part towards the people.
right. So in an anechoic chamber like this, we can have really accurate, really repeatable polar measurements and measurements in general.
Which
But
boils down to like really knowing exactly how it
right.
sounds.
That's
like
right.
how it really sounds, taking all the elements, all the other uncontrollable elements out.
that's right. Highly accurately modeled data. So we can take that data and we can put it in a program like Ease or Cat Acoustics or whatever, and we can model it and we can see, all right, in this room, if I put these two speakers in this position, is it going to cover the room? Well, you can see, you can tell from the room.
Right.
And in addition to your primary coverage, like your 60 by 40 that we talked about, that, you know, Mike just mentioned, and he talked about determining what that pattern is based on the on-axis sound and the off-axis sound, and they say, well, at this point it's about 6 dB down, we'll say that's our axis. It doesn't just go away. Outside
right.
of 60 and outside of 40, that sound doesn't just go away. So from an engineering standpoint, we have to say, well, what's going to happen with the other off-axis sound?
That's right.
When that you know comes to a reflective surface, or when it meets with the sound coming from another speaker cabinet, and you know, some of these things, you know, maybe some of our DJ viewers are saying, well, why is it relevant to me? And we'll try to tackle that in a future episode. But understand, this gives us very accurate information about what that speaker is doing, and helps those of us who are using it to understand how to use them more effectively in different spaces and with different speakers.
And it helps us design those horns and those loudspeaker systems so that they are more accurate, so they are doing what we're trying to get them to do.
Exactly.
thank
Next thing I was
goodness.
going to say, exactly. Mike hit the nail on the head, is that it gives them a chance to take it in and measure it and say, you know, is this what we're going for? Are we giving the best possible product to the, you know, to the DJs out there, or the touring companies out there, the stadiums, or whoever the customer for that particular loudspeaker series is? And, you know, they can substantiate that with real world fact and not you know, just guesswork, really. So,
Yeah, I mean, because when I'm setting up to do a show, I have enough variables to try to deal with and manage just
Yeah,
in
you
that
don't-
room.
you don't want to be
And
thinking about
how
everything else.
soft, is there any sound absorbing in the room, or is it all just clear? I mean, I remember setting up one time where they had tooling, and I was in the long end of the room, and I said, turn it up so we can hear it, and I was on the far end, and I'm like, more, and he's like, you're at max, and all the tooling sucked up all the sound going down. I didn't even think about that. And so yeah, you guys do all this research so that the speaker is and does what it's supposed to do, so that all I have to deal with then is what's in the room and try to figure that out, which is more than enough work for me.
Yep.
Beyond the functional aspects of the anechoic chamber, there's a couple other reasons that this room is really cool, and we can justify the $5 million price tag that we just made up. when you stand, it's amazing how loud the world is. And there's some studies about why hearing loss occurs, and there's different schools of thought that say maybe it's presbycusic because you just get old and your parts wear out, and that's why your hearing goes away, as opposed to social noise, socioacusis, which means that you were exposed to noise all the time in the world, and that is what wears the parts out. And it's what's remarkable to me is when you come in here and you don't have some guy like me running his yap all the time. You just stand in this room quietly for a few minutes and give your ears a chance to kind of adjust to the fact that there isn't all this noise around. You can actually hear your heartbeat. You can hear blood rushing through the blood vessels in your body, and it is tremendously serene. Some people report getting dizzy, feeling disoriented, and that's because maybe we use sound to orient ourselves in a room. There's stories about blind people who can navigate by we'll call it sonar anyway, like sort of like bats, but
Sure.
but we do also use sound to help us understand our environment around us. And anyways, it's just an amazing experience to come in here, and for me, it's one of the few times in my life that I'm quiet. So
next week it'll be meditation time with Ben in the Anechoic chamber.
I love coming in here and just chilling out for a little bit. It's I wish I had 5 million bucks to get in.
Well, let's start the Kickstarter campaign now tomorrow.
Go fund me. I need a nap box.
We're building Ben an anechoic chamber to meditate and decompress.
Yeah.
You can come.
Right, and he'll invite you.
Yeah.
Well, you got to make a prize in a Kickstarter campaign. There's
right.
got to be like a reason to kick in $100,000.
Sure.
So they can come in and
10
have a
minutes in an
beverage with
anechoic
Ben.
we'll have cookies.
Right, and he'll tell you every technical thing you've ever wanted to know your entire life, and even things you didn't. All right, well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.